60-second thing. Man, you seeing a show and having trouble again?
I do see that happening.
What the?
How about this? Let's just go ahead and just send it.
We're not Joe Rogan.
Damn. How about we just send it? We're having an issue streaming to Facebook. This may be an issue on Facebook's end. It is possible the stream's ended or leave it on Facebook. Go to Facebook. Let me see. I'm go to Facebook. See what we're looking like there. We'll make it work. We will make it work. You seeing us on? Okay. No, we're technically on, but it's not streaming. It's only.
Does she see it on?
NFC Fights page.
She sees it on the NFC Fight Night page. I don't even see it on the NFC Fight Night page.
Yeah, no, but Jenna Lee says she didn't see it either. Hey, if you're tuned in right now, what's up? Welcome to NFC Now. I see we have one. I don't know who the one is, but what's up? Just figuring out a couple of technical things on our end as we move through our NFC Now. Is this our fourth show? Maybe fifth show?
I think it's our fifth or sixth, but it's about to be our worst if we don't figure this one out.
Yeah, Doug Usher just hit me, said if he can come on right now, too.
Edit, scheduled. Due to an issue
what you thinking,
with
Dave?
Facebook. Russ just texted me. Let's see what Big Russ said.
How about we just share the link? Can we not? Nah.
Russ says he sees it now, but when I go to the edit, due to an issue with Facebook, we cannot support editing at this time. Please edit your stream directly on Facebook.
We're live on YouTube. We are live on YouTube. So if you're watching on YouTube, what is up? Welcome to NFC Now. That's David Oblas. I'm Julian Virgin. Figuring out just a couple of technical difficulties as we move this thing through, but just bear with us. Welcome to, again, NFC Now. I think we have a link that if you want to chime in on today's conversation, you can definitely chime in. Make sure you see us on the NFC community page on Facebook. Looks like your camera was unplugged. Please plug it back in or select a different camera. It didn't happen until that just happened. See if you can unplug it and plug it back in. You sure it's in the mode? I'm not getting any start count. Boom, voila. Welcome to NFC Now. All three people that are logged in. Again, we're just trying to figure out a couple technical difficulties. Make sure we're streaming to everywhere that we know we can stream to. David, we got an update?
I don't know if we can don't know if we can do anything as we're logged in. I don't think the settings can change on Facebook, which kind of sucks to turn it live.
We're live on YouTube. What we can do is drop the YouTube link in on the page so people can listen live.
I think we try to figure out.
What does that sound like?
I think we try to figure out the Facebook somehow, just because I think more people watch on Facebook.
I would agree. This is what we do.
Or remove this destination from the broadcast and re-add it. So let me try removing this. Remove NFC.
Try it one more time?
Yeah, I'm trying to remove the two. Remove NFC. Now let me see if I can add them back in. Save changes. Now let's see if I can add.
Yeah, no, because it's definitely showing us live on YouTube. We're live on YouTube.
So do you see when I just add the NFC community back in, it says open the group settings. Do you see that section right there?
Nope.
Open your. Let me see if I can open the group settings and the post formats section. Click all. So post formats. Click all. Click add. If you see a settings button.
If you just logging in, welcome to the NFC Pod. We're just figuring out a couple of technical difficulties before we fully go live. Have a really dope show planned for everybody. Following the fight of the decade on this past Friday, October 15th at the District Atlanta. It was a really cool night of fights. A lot of really interesting things that I saw happen throughout the evening.
Ask Jenna Lee if she sees us in the NFC community.
I see a check from the NFC community, so I'm assuming that we are here and live and ready to go. But let me see. Jenna Lee, are you seeing us on Facebook? If y'all are seeing us on Facebook right now, just go ahead and drop a comment. Never mind. Nope.
Yeah, it just went to the exclamation point.
Hey, well, forget the community right now, or maybe try it again. But we'll just go live what we have right now. What you think, Dave?
Where's our IT department? Did they quit after NFC 150?
Maybe, quite frankly, they might have.
So now we've got the check mark next to the NFC fight night. But
we'll see if that stays up there too.
Just went away. God,
we'll just keep it at YouTube and we'll work from there. But that's what I'm thinking. Yeah. So, Dave.
Yeah.
We're just going to copy the post and put it in the NFC community.
Okay.
So people can watch from there and just tell them to watch from YouTube. It's showtime, baby. We got to keep this show rolling. What you think? You want to do another countdown? You want to start it over, take a quick breather?
Yeah, I guess let's end this one and start it over and see if we can figure it out.
No, I wouldn't end it. I would just keep it going. We already got 5 people here. I wouldn't end it. Again, I would just share this link because, again, I just reshared that link to every guest that's supposed to be up here after we did it the first time. Let's just go ahead and hit the countdown one more time. Let's just start it from the top, and we'll do it as that.
Okay, so I see Jenna Lee just posted it.
Yep, she just posted on the NFC. Shout out to all 5 of y'all that are plugged in right now. Welcome to NFC Now. I'm Julian Virgin. That is David Oblas. Figuring out some technical difficulties, but hey, it happens. Thank y'all for sticking and staying. We're going to hit a quick reset just so we can catch our breath, and we'll get you on the back end with a really dope show. We got my man Doug Usher coming in, Tony Hope, Malcolm Wellmaker, and we have some really interesting dialogue that's about to take place. So y'all make sure y'all stick and stay. David, go ahead, hit it. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Julian Virgin. That is David Oblas. This is NFC Now, the official NFC podcast. We have an amazing show planned for you all today, especially coming off the heels of NFC 150 this past Saturday, October 15th at District Atlanta for the fight of the decade between Doug Usher and Jared Gooden. We have to get to all of that, all the other fights on the card. We have an amazing show planned for you all. We got our guy Doug Usher following his TKO defeat on Saturday night coming on the show to talk with us. We also have Tony Hope coming on to talk about his unanimous decision victory over, Jamarcus Hall on Saturday in Muay Thai. And we also have a NFC veteran in Malcolm Wellmaker coming off of his first round submission victory over a young man that fought this weekend at Icon FC, Christopher Wingate, that is. Much respect to his opponent. So a jam-packed show, but first we're going to start off with NFC CEO, the man in charge, head promoter, David Oblas. Dave, what's up?
I think what's up is our IT department quit after this weekend. Looks like we're only on YouTube, and this pissed me off that we can't get on Facebook.
We're going to continue to try throughout the show. We'll make it work, man. Outside of that, I know you're working diligently to get that thing cracking. If you want to just explain to us, what were your thoughts about NFC 150?
It was a good show. I think we planned it 6 weeks ahead of time. It was only the pro main event. It was only Doug Usher versus Jared Gooden. Nothing else was, there's other fights on the card, wrestling event, but it was 100% about Doug Usher versus Jared Gooden. They couldn't fight in September, so we couldn't make it work then. We didn't want to put on the November show, so this weekend was the only date it worked out for both of them. District was cool enough to allow us to open up for a special 5 to 8 show. And it was really, it was like I told other people, it was almost like Conor McGregor versus Nate Diaz. Should that fight not have happened, possibly the whole card would have been canceled, which would never happen before. But this was only Doug Usher versus Jared Gooden, nothing else. That was a fight people wanted to see. And it was done just to make them. It'll probably never happen again that we make a main event show just for 2 guys. But it is what it is. The fight lived up to it. It lived up to the fight of the decade. Unfortunately, cut a little bit early, just simply because of Doug's broken hand, but that's the fight game. Those things unfortunately happen.
Yeah, let's talk about the actual fight, man. The 1.5, maybe 1.25 of rounds that we got, man. How would you just describe what you saw, as they went out there and did battle?
I like both the guys. Both the guys I've been having on our show for over 10 years or so. So I'm very fond of both Doug and Jared. I think Doug was winning the fight. I think everyone thinks Doug won 2 rounds of 0 before it's called. I think he impressed all of us as the older guy. Went out there and dominated Jared from start. I'd hate to say to finish, but start almost to finish when he broke his hand. It shocked the hell out of me because I was kind of picking Jared Gooden. I like Doug Usher. I think I picked him on the show last week, but I honestly thought Jared Gooden would win it. But I was shocked Doug dominated him for 2 rounds for 10 minutes.
It seemed like Doug won the stand-up battle, and then he secured that takedown. Although I would say didn't land too much damage on the ground. I thought Jared did a very good job of defending him while he was on the ground. But from what I saw, Doug Usher won the majority of those exchanges on the feet. I was interested to see how it would go the longer the fight went, especially being that Doug missed weight by a fair chunk. What were your thoughts about that leading, the missed weight?
Regarding the fight, Doug was up 2-1. All 3 judges had him 2-0. So there's no discrepancy on who was winning the fight. I thought Jared did good in the ground, but Doug was absolutely up 2-0 at the point that it was finally stopped. Regarding the weight issue, kind of sucked. We have the 7-day out weight checks on all fighters. Both guys were within the 10%, 7 days out. Doug was on the higher side of the 10%. I double-checked with him. He told me he'd make the weight. I double-checked with him the day before. I double-checked with him the morning of. So I did everything I could to make sure Doug would make weight. When I found out he was not going to make weight, probably about an hour or so before weigh-ins, I called Jared, let him know it would not happen. And went over the contract with him and let him know the money he'd be receiving from Doug for the missed weight. And, then we went to weigh-ins and we found out there'd be more discrepancy at weigh-ins.
We'll definitely get to some of those discrepancies, man. But before we do, in the past, has Doug ever missed weight? I know you've worked with him a lot, put on a lot of his fights, man. Has this ever happened before?
I don't think so. And none of the times I've seen has Doug ever missed weight. So, yeah, this is the first time we've ever experienced that. First time we've ever experienced Doug not making weight or not. I hate to use the word not professional, but first time he's ever been, quote, not professional in the past. So yeah, first for him.
Now, following the fight, our guy Lawson McClure interviewed Doug in the cage, in which Doug essentially explained to everybody that, hey, I broke my hand. I couldn't continue and gave reasons why. What were your thoughts about Doug Usher's post-fight comments?
I went over to Lawson and talked to him afterwards to make sure I heard it correctly, and I think I did. It kind of surprised me, to be honest. I don't know if Doug put it the way he meant to put it, and I guess when we talked to him a little bit, we'll find out. I don't think it came out of his mouth the way he wanted to say it, but he kind of said, fighting doesn't pay my bills. I've got to do my pressure washing tomorrow and Monday, and I've got jobs this week, and I can't allow my hand to get any more messed up than it is right now. So I had to bow out. I think looking at his Facebook post today and seeing how bad his hand was, it obviously hurt a lot more than what we saw, but it almost sounded like he had better things to do and didn't want to mess up his hand for pressure washing, which again, I don't think it came out the way he wanted it to.
I do think it sounded like that. I also couldn't blame him for that. At this point, just when we look at the totality of everything, Doug Usher being 39 years old, him having 3 kids, a pressure washing business, I feel like that was, obviously his hand was broken. I don't think there's any contesting that. But the idea that he could have, bit down on his mouthpiece and fought through it, I think that's a little bit like sometimes as a fan, we want our fighters to do that. But just realistically, as a man, I think I can't even knock him on that decision at all. Like, if he's looking at the big picture, it did kind of come across that he said it that way. And I could see how somebody else would be like, dang, like, he quit. He didn't continue to go. And again, he didn't quit. His hand, he wasn't able to go on. But you've heard of people, I broke my hand in the first round and I kept fighting through. Doug did tell us a couple weeks ago, he was like, look, I'm not afraid of Jared. If Jared wants to fight me, I will fight him, but I'm not literally looking for it. So I think Doug took the fight like, hey, all right, I'll fight this dude. I'm not afraid to fight him. And I think that kind of also went into him missing weight. I can't speak for him. He'll be on the show a little bit later so he can clear up everything. But it just didn't seem as if, like, Doug didn't have much to lose, essentially. That's what it seemed like to me. Can I blame him? No. Again, he has a family to feed. He has a jobs to do. Him walking around with a broken hand was not going to serve him, especially if he only fights 3 times a year. I mean, that really might be the truth, too. It might not pay him. It might not be the main thing that pays him. So I couldn't necessarily knock him on that too much. I thought it was real, and I think that's my favorite part of the job is being able to talk to some of these fighters like after they get out of fight, because you'll get them at their most emotional state. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. It's kind of like a lot of people haven't been in fist fights. We're just fans of the sport no matter what we do around it. But if you get kicked in the nuts, you might not be able to continue for 5 or 10 minutes. And some people might just say, hey, man, I saw the other guy. The other guy got kicked in the nuts, and he kept fighting. Well, every person that gets kicked in the nuts has a different feeling, and it affects you different ways if you get kicked in the nuts. So, I mean, breaking your hand one way, I remember Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather's broken his hands in several fights, as he claims. I've never seen the medical documentation, but he claims he breaks his hand in fights, and he keeps fighting. But it might not be the same kind of hand breaking that Doug Usher had, and Doug Usher posted the x-rays. I was going to call Dr. Trop tonight or tomorrow because he did the x-rays and see how bad it was. But, people break bones in different ways. So it's hard to say how different people react to that. Might have been a horrible breakage.
and he did as much as he can. Again, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to NFC Now. That's David Oblas. I'm Julian Virgin. Now, David, you put something on Facebook a little earlier today in regards to whether or not fighters should get paid if they do or do not fight. If they do not fight, and who is liable for that. Now, you mentioned a little earlier about weigh-ins and the discussions that took place at weigh-ins following Doug Usher's weight miss, man. Could you just make us a little more privy of that dialogue?
Yeah, so let's go it over a minute, but I do see Tony Hope there. So I was going to ask you if we can postpone the long dialogue until we get Doug Usher on, because it might be more fun with him involved since he was the one that missed weight. But
I think
go ahead.
I think that's a good decision. I think that's a good decision.
Yeah, so when fighters miss weight, it causes a domino effect of, is the other guy going to take the fight or not? And it's not only missing weight, but it's missing weight. It's not getting your medicals done. It's possibly failing your eye exam. It's possibly, you only get 2 hours for weigh-ins from 1 to 3 p.m. It's if traffic is bad and you show up after weight. If you get in a car wreck, if you blow a flat tire on the way to weigh-ins, whatever happens, and this was only discussion about weigh-ins, but it could be discussion on anything that causes the fight to fall through or be canceled. Should fighter B get paid? And who pays that fighter? The promoter or the fighter that caused it to be canceled? So yeah, I think it's an interesting discussion. We've had it for years. I want to see what Doug Usher thinks, because not only is he as a fighter, he's a veteran of the sport. He's a manager. He's a trainer. So yeah, I say we discuss it a little bit when we get ready for Doug and get Tony on.
Absolutely. Well, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, coming off the heels of his unanimous decision victory over Jamarcus Hall at NFC 150, we would like to introduce and welcome our guy, Tony Hope, to the NFC Now podcast. Undefeated Tony Hope, that is. Tony, what's up, bro?
What's going on, y'all? How y'all doing?
Is he in?
Yep.
Voila, there he goes. Tony Hope. What's up, bro?
Nothing much, man. I'm chilling, man. I'm at school, so I just getting out of some classes and wrapping everything up.
Word on the street, man, is that you're you go to the Georgia State University.
Yep, I do. Yep.
What you studying, bro? That's what's up, man. What you studying?
Journalism. So I want to be a sports analyst for a career, or rather, I am going to be a sports analyst for a career. So talking about MMA, Muay Thai, basketball, football, like on a podcast similar to this. That's my main, goal.
Hey, man, you're looking at somebody that went to the Georgia State University and sat in them same damn classes, them same journalism classes with the same hope and the same goal, bro. So I'm rooting for you big time, man. Some of your professors, do you have any, like, I was dealing a lot with my man, I'm thinking about him. He was an old dude. He had white hairs. He was the head of the journalism department.
Nah, I haven't met him yet because I'm only a sophomore, so I still got a little ways to go.
Indeed, man. Still got a little ways to go, man. But you're undefeated in fighting right now, man. In Muay Thai, undefeated fighter, just coming off the heels of a big victory this past weekend, man, against Jamarcus Hall. Walk us through the fight.
Man, this was the most collected and calm I've ever been. I've only had 4 fights all this year, but I could just tell, like, my energy in this fight was different. Like, I wasn't nervous, no anxiety. No self-doubt. That's a big one for me, no self-doubt. And I feel like this fight was the best showcase of my hard work. Like, I was just looking back at some of the videos I have, and it just looked very technically sound, relaxed. Like, I wasn't frantically doing anything like I noticed in my last 3 fights. But it was such a fun experience. Like, it was super fun.
It was crazy because you talk about being calm, man. And I remember as I was introducing you into the crowd, I'm like Tony Hope, and like you were just very stoic, bro. There was no emotions. It was just like you were focused on the goal. Was that the case when that was taking place?
See, and it's funny because leading up to the fight, I always have in my head, this is what I'm gonna do when I get out there. This is what I'm gonna do when I win. But man, that night I heard you, and I was internally, I was just so poised, like I'm ready to go to work. Like, this is my first fight with no shin guards. This is my first fight where, there is a serious threat of like danger. Like when we have headgear and shin guards on, we can kind of be a little relaxed because the consequences might not be as ruthless. But this was my first experience with, almost like a full free fight. And yeah, I was just ready to go do work.
You fought a veteran in Jamarcus Hall, man, somebody that has a lot of fights, man. And, he wasn't scared of you. He went out there. He stood toe-to-toe to you, man. He caught you with a couple of different things, man. What did he teach you, man? Or, like, did anything that he do catch you off guard?
He was so tough. Like, easily the toughest person I fought so far. I was going in with the intent of getting the knockout win. But and in the first round, like, I was, my head kicks, they were landing, and looking back on film, like, my kicks were strong. Like, they were really sound. They were landing in the right places, but he just seemed to just shake them off, you know. And he would he would always come back with some strikes of his own after if I got in too close. But the biggest thing I learned from that fight is that experience is very key. Like, he was able to stick around that whole fight because of he's been in that cage before. He's fought before with no shin guards. He was able to navigate any troubles that he might have had with me. But it also proved to me though that my hard work pays off. Going into that fight, I only had 3 compared to his 17. Just on paper that doesn't look good for me, but that hard work beats everything.
You say you learned a lot at weigh-ins. This is David here. Did you you learned a lot in the fight? Did you learn at weigh-ins not to leave weigh-ins till we take the photo?
Yeah, I learned my lesson then. I was so hungry. Like, I went there, weighed in. I was proud I made weight, and I immediately went up the street to get some tacos. Like, I know now though. I'm just gonna stick around, maybe bring like a little protein bar, banana afterwards, so I can hold off.
That is a tip. Bring a cooler with you with food and Gatorade and Pedialyte and stuff like that to the weigh-ins, knowing you'll be there an hour, because we got no weigh-in photo of you and your opponent.
Yeah, I feel bad. Like, I still look back and like, man, I really should have had the complete experience, the face-off, the picture, and everything. But I hope I made up with it, or I made up for it during the fight. Like, I feel like that fight was pretty entertaining, so it kind of like makes up for it.
You say this was your first real fight without the shin guards and the headgear. Now that it is your first fight, what do you think of it? Do you feel like you want to stay in this sport, or it's not for you?
I definitely want to stay in it. It's I'm just kind of taking it just month by month. Like, I'm always striving for constant improvement, and that's just what I've seen. Like, this last fight, like I said, this is the best I've ever felt in a ring of any sort. And I definitely think that I have a major future in it, whether that's professional or just just being a menace in the advanced amateur ranks. However it may be, I just want to keep on trying new things and just see where this sport can take me.
Tony, I definitely see all the potential in the world, bro. Like, I think after the fight was over, I came over to you as you were laying on the ground, and I was like, I think your nickname should be the Praying Mantis, just because like the amount of length that you have in your legs, bro, is crazy. But going back to the reason why you were on the ground, what happened in that third round? And when you pointed at the ground, at first I saw you I thought you got hit, and I thought you were looking at a mouthpiece that maybe fell off the ground. But it looked like the doctor came in and checked you out in some way, shape, or form, man. Could you explain what took place?
Yeah, so in the third round, it was like maybe within the first 30, 45 seconds, I threw a front kick with my lead left leg to his face, and I broke my toe. So it might have clipped him on the chin. I feel like that's what it was. I still couldn't get like a clear video on it, but I think I know I threw a front kick at his face, and I just felt something weird. I brought it down, and I threw a couple of punches afterwards, but then after I got some space, I looked down, pointed at it, just to indicate to the ref, like, all right, I'm good to fight, but just know that, this is my toe is broken or it's messed up. So yeah, and I felt when it broke, it didn't hurt or anything like that. It just felt different and weird. And it was just something that I acknowledged and just fought through.
It's crazy that you fought through it too, because like you kept throwing that foot. What foot was it? Was your right?
It was my left.
It was your left foot. I feel like you threw it a couple more times before that fight was over.
Yeah, I did, because it was just, I know what happens if the doctor stops it. I don't want to have a loss. Like, I don't want to lose. If I lose, I'm going to go out on my own sword, not because of an injury. So once the referee stopped it and it took me over to the doctor for them to check it out, And I told him like emphatically, I'm like, I'm good to go, and just you can pop it back in or tape it up or however it needs to work, but I'm good to keep fighting. And they said I was good too. And I said, I'm just on. It's the third round. I know I'm winning this fight, so let me just finish strong. Make sure I don't take any unnecessary risks, and also just finish with a show. Like keep it as entertaining as possible.
Is it still affecting you or hurting you now?
It's I have it taped up and I have a walking boot on just because I have to go to class and stuff today. But it's not as bad as it was the day afterwards. The day afterwards was the worst. So yesterday, um, I could just feel it throbbing, and I've been taking like little ibuprofens and keeping it iced up. So, but I'm good. Like,
And you train at Bangkok Boxing under one of the legends of Atlanta, Kunpan over there. I know you're young and young to the game, so you probably haven't experienced Kunpan too much. But talk a little bit about what Kunpan means and what it's like to train under that dude over there.
it's just so like it's crazy to me that my coach, like my primary coach, the person I've been going to for about a year and a half, is a legend of the sport. You know, that's like training under Michael Jordan for basketball. You know, it's just it's crazy to me, and I just always go back and think on it. Like I'm really blessed to be learning from someone like this. You know, no matter how much it is he gives me or how close it is, like I'm still able to pick parts from him, and he looks out for me too because he sees the potential. And I'm just glad that when I picked up this sport, it happened to be at that gym. You know, there's there's not too many play. There isn't a gym that is going to offer the same experience as Bangkok. I can promise you.
How did you find Bangkok? Did you just find him on the web, or how'd you hear about him?
Interestingly enough, I live 5 minutes down the road from it, and I lived down the street from it for like 7 years, but never had an interest in like fighting or kickboxing or anything like that. So I never noticed it. But after um, during COVID or the year after the pandemic, so 2021, I was just looking at local schools for Muay Thai, and that was the closest one. I said, let me try that out before anything else. And ever since, the rest is history.
I saw that you had Walt McCord in your corner as well, man. I know Walt lives very close to Bangkok Boxing, man. What does it mean to just have like somebody like Walt in
Man,
your corner?
like he's the dog. Like I don't I love training with people that are better than me. I feel like that is with everything. You should never be the best at something so early. Always need to be with or around someone who is levels above you and have that respect for them because y'all can learn a lot from each other. And that's what it was, like, especially this fight camp. Like, I learned a lot from him as he's learned a lot from me, especially just, when managing distance. Like you said, with the nickname that you suggested, praying mantis, like that's what he told me a lot. Use that distance. Your legs are a crazy weapon. Same thing with TJ. Like I train with TJ a lot too, and he's the NFC champion in the 145 division. So I love just training with people that are going to allow me to push myself to the greater heights as well as push them.
How tall are you, and what did you weigh in at?
I just keep it safe and say 6'1". Some people say I'm taller than that, but I weighed in at 136.9.
So you are 6'1" and weigh 137 pounds.
Yes, sir. I'm real skinny. I've always been skinny, but I used to be really short. Like, I used to wrestle in high school, so I was just short and skinny. But maybe about 3 years ago, I hit a growth spurt, and it's just been continuing since.
To put that in comparison, I'm 5'3.5" and weigh about 172.
Look, it's crazy. I still look back on it too, or I still think about it rather. Like that's also a reason why I want to keep on taking this sport far, because it's like there's very few people that are blessed with these very unique and specific, like this archetype. I'm tall, skinny, quick, strong. Like that's like a really good recipe for greatness.
After the fight, you were talking with Lawson McClure, and you were like, Jesse, I need that belt. I need that belt, man. You've seen other Muay Thai fights in the NFC, man. Did you have a name in general that you wanted to compete against for that belt?
Man, no one specific. Like it's I know Cameron, he's really good. Justin, I know he's really good. He reached out to me after the fight. He congratulated me and everything, and we kind of hinted at us possibly fighting soon. But whoever it is, it's all respect, and I want to go. I want to fight for a belt because that's just the next step for me now. It's like that's the next challenge. I've I've paid my dues. I feel like just from this year, I've gone through amateur. I fought against a veteran. Like this is not someone just starting out or is like on the same level as me. He's a veteran of this sport, and I beat him pretty soundly and entertainingly. So I feel like the next step is a belt. Like give me a shot. I feel like I know rather that it's going to be entertaining and I'm gonna come out with a win.
Did you get to watch? I know you were 2 fights before, but did you get to watch the Doug Usher versus Jared Gooden fight? And what did you think of it?
Yes, sir, I did. I was after I got taped up and everything and said hello to my friends and family. I went down and I watched it cage side, and it was entertaining. Like it was definitely fun to watch because I've never seen like a professional MMA fight that close, and those are some big boys. Like it's not so just the pace of the fight was different. I would say I enjoyed it though, and it was unfortunate to see him Doug break his hand, because I felt like he was leading the fight up to that point, especially in that second round. Like he was controlling on the ground, but I can't remember what strike it was. But when that hand broke, you could kind of tell he just walked off, turned his back, and walked off. And you knew something was wrong. I thought it was a groin shot, but yeah, it was unfortunate that the fight ended that way, especially as the main event.
What do you want to leave people with? This is the first time you've been on our podcast. It was you weren't co-main event, but you were 1 or 2 before main event there. What do you want people to remember about Tony Hope from this fight you had?
Just I'm here to put on a show. Like this has always been a dream of mine to be an athlete, and being able to do this in this very competitive and dynamic sport. This is a blessing and a dream of me. So just remember my name, because like I said, I'm taking this sport seriously, and I'm gonna see how far it can take me. Next time I'm not gonna be 2 fights before the main event. Next time I know I'm gonna be the main event.
Tony Hope, hey, listen, I definitely see all of the potential, man, and it's the mindset too, bro. Like you did a couple things throughout our conversation right now, where it's just like, I know, like I know I'm built for this. I'm ready for that. I love the attitude, bro. One thing I would love to see you fight Seth Haas. I know I'm not the matchmaker, man, but I think you and Seth are both very tall 135ers, man, and I think y'all definitely both come to fight in due time. I'm just putting that out there, bro. But I just want to let you know, bro, like I respect you 1,000%. We appreciate your time for you coming out here, man. And I see you being a model on the side too, bro. Don't think I don't see what's going on over here, bro.
Well, I'm doing a little bit of everything, like I got these good looks. I know how to put on some clothes, so I'm seeing how far everything can take me. I'm only 20, so I got a long ways to go. I'm just gonna try to see whatever floats my boat.
Hey, man, look, continue to put on for the Georgia State University, man. Continue to put on for your family, man. Continue to put on for your gym, bro. Just continue to put on for the people, bro. We know you. We respect you. And until the next time, that's Tony Hope.
Thank you. I appreciate y'all.
And if you're good at podcasts, come on next time and show us how to work this podcast, because tonight we had trouble getting at Facebook. So you might be our new podcast chief engineer next week.
Oh, please let me know the next one, and I'll be there for sure.
Are you good at doing podcasts?
Yes, sir. Look, I'm here to learn, and I'm here to just try everything. So, yes, sir. I'm good to help y'all out next time.
You might be we might bring you to the NFC Southeastern headquarters next Monday.
That would be amazing.
Hey, it's also known as my house.
Yeah. All right. Thank y'all.
Peace.
Damn, I think I saw Doug Usher smile a second ago. The joke is I've never seen Doug Usher smile, but looking at him in the thing below, I think I saw him smile when I made a joke a minute ago.
That's really dope, man. We about to bring on Doug Usher, man. But before we do, just a quick recap of our guy, Tony Hope. Have you ever, really talked to Tony before?
No, that's the crazy thing. I was curious to see what his personality would be like, because at weigh-ins, he doesn't say a damn word at weigh-ins. Friday at weigh-ins, he came to weigh-ins, he weighed in, and then he left. So at 2 o'clock, we started doing the pose-offs, or 1:45. I called out his name 3 or 4 times, and I guess he left to go get tacos, never told us, and showed up back after the pose-offs ended. And he apologized to me afterwards, and he's so soft-spoken, he hardly says a word. So, yeah, some of these guys, I email with them a lot, but I don't get to know their personality until weigh-ins and fight day. And if you leave at weigh-ins, then I never get an opportunity to meet you. So yeah.
After talking with him, man, what do you think?
I think we're going to hire him as the NFC podcast engineer. I think that's going to be first thing. But I think it is cool that he called out the champ. He wants a title fight. He knows who the champs are, Cameron Bird and Justin McCullum. Justin McCullum, like we've talked about before, is probably only 2 miles from Bangkok boxing. So it's kind of ironic that these guys all live and train 2 or 3 miles away from each other, and they fight wherever we put it. I don't know how they never see each other at Target or on the street somewhere like that. But he seems like a pretty cool guy. Let's get his ticket sales up and get him a little fan following and get him a title fight.
And him being on the NFC Now pod will definitely do so. Y'all make sure y'all support the hustle and follow my man Tony Hope everywhere, man. That's the homie. And I like that young man. He's sharp. He went to Georgia State University. And he fights like a dog too, man. He's a good fighter. He's a tough matchup for people at 135.
I don't like the fact that he's 9 inches taller than me and weighs 25 pounds less. I don't like that fact at all.
I mean, he is like 20 years younger than you, maybe 30. You know what I mean? So it is what it is, man.
When I was 20, I wasn't 6'1", 130.
It is what it is, man. Again, ladies and gentlemen, this is NFC Now. I'm Julian Virgin. That is David Oblas. Coming up, we have one half of the NFC 150 main event, fight of the decade. He came off on the, I don't even want to say losing end. He came off on the short end of the main event with a second round TKO defeat. But we want to welcome in Yamato. I hope I'm saying that right as well. Doug Usher. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Doug Usher. Doug.
What's going on? What's going on?
Throw him up, man. What it look like? You wrapped up. What did the doctor say?
I'm playing. 6 to 8 weeks. It's got to have 2 screws and a plate put in it. So it's actually, let me see if I could. This finger, middle finger here, that one, see how swollen all these knuckles are? Well, the bone right there to the middle finger is snapped completely in half. So if I would have threw one more strike with it, the way it's snapped, it's angled. The snap is going up. That's why there's such a bulge on my hand. I can get it in here. You see that bulge right there? That's actually the top of my hand. That's how swollen it is. So one more shot would have sent the bone completely out of the top of my hand. So yeah, it was best that the fight was stopped. But I actually, a lot of people don't they think I broke my hand with the last punch at the end of the second round, which broke it the rest of the way. It was actually broken in the first round. So if people remember, I was walking across the ring when I was coming forward going after Jarrett, and I was opening and closing my left hand. And every time I did it, it was popping. So I knew something was wrong with it. I didn't think that it was broken at the time, so it's probably fractured. So I decided to keep going. In between rounds, I went to tell my corner that there was something wrong with my hand, but I stopped myself from doing it, and I just went on out there for the second round. But halfway through the second, when we were up against the cage, I think I threw a flurry or something like that and hit him with my left hand again, and then I immediately stepped back and looked down at it. And I looked up, and Jarrett looks at me, and he goes, and then we kept going. So then the last shot at the end of the second round that I threw over the top, I landed the punch, and I felt my hand shift, and I felt pain in it. And that's when I turned and went towards the ref and was telling him that it was broken, and turns out I was very, very right. So it probably started out as a fracture, and then the more punches I threw with it, the more I broke the bone going throughout the fight. So now it's got to have 2 screws and a plate put in it, and I'll be out of commission for 6 to 8 weeks.
I can't even imagine how disappointed it is to be a fighter and you're losing 2 rounds to 0, and you got to stop the fight like that. But you were actually winning decisively 2-0. Like, not only how much did that piss you off, but how much how much more difficult did it make for you to go to the corner and possibly stop the fight at that point, knowing you were up 2-0?
Well, like I said, I own pressure washing business. I already got jobs and stuff lined up. So I knew basically what really needed to happen. I was trying to get advice from the corner on what to do, and I took too long to answer the ref because he asked me, "Can you continue?" So I turned back to the corner and I'm talking to my coaches about what should I do. They're giving me different advice and stuff. And I'm like, it's completely broken, and they're like, use the right hand, and just fight with your other tools. And I look back at the ref and he looks at me, he goes, "Can you continue?" And I'm still looking at my corner, trying to get a for sure answer. And he waves the fight off. So it was probably for the best. I know his job is to protect the fighter. He knew there was an injury. I didn't know it was this severe, but it's just pretty bad. So I've never broken my hand before or anything like that. So
I was about to start calling you Dr. Doug Usher because listening to you talk, it's almost like I am talking to Dr. Doug Usher instead of Dr. Jeff Traub. You've analyzed it from the start till the end here. But why couldn't you do that? For the people that talked to me after the fight, why couldn't you just finish the fight with your right hand or with kicks or with knees or take him to the ground and just smother him for 3 minutes? Did that ever cross your mind? And why couldn't you do that?
Well, I know the way that I fight and my mindset when I'm in there. So my stubborn ass would have threw this again and would have really, really severely messed it up. You're talking about going to the ground. If I go to fall to my left or lean to my left, I got to put my hand down. You're going to instinctively, because you're in fight mode. If he throws a kick, he throws a punch on this side, I have to put to defend it. So either way it goes, I go into the third round like that. I'm still going to mess it up even worse. And what you don't want to do is do irreversible damage to it. And that's why I didn't. It was the best decision to go ahead and stop the fight. To make sure there's no more further injury to the already pretty bad injury that there already is.
Completely understand, Doug Usher, again joining us here on NFC Now. Do you think that decision was made easier because your point was essentially proven? Like, how do you feel the beginning of the fight played out in terms?
The beginning of the fight, it takes me a lot of times. It takes me a minute to get going. The fight, man, it was a tough fight. I can honestly say I was fighting on reserve. I was trying to make sure I wouldn't blow myself out, trying to go after a knockout or something like that, because halfway, probably 2 minutes into that first round, I felt that weight cut. So your body was telling your body to do this, throw that, do this, throw that, and then your body's like, well, no, it don't work that way because the hell you put us through for the last 72 hours, So I had to take what my body would give me. But I knew, I got enough experience to know and fight IQ to know when to let off the gas and go into like a cruise mode and then still manage the fight. So that's what I did to make sure I wouldn't exhaust myself, because that weight cut was hell, So I currently have to figure something out with that, which way I'm gonna go after this fight.
Yeah, can we talk about the weight cut, man? You came in at 191 and some change, man. To the surprise of a lot of people, what took place? How was the weight cut, and when did you realize that you weren't going to be able to make the 185 limit?
Well, I was down to like 200 flat, like 2 weeks previous to that. But as we got closer to fight week, I took some advice from a teammate about water loading, and I haven't really water loaded since my amateur days. And I was like, he's like, you got to water load, man. You got to water load so you can make weight. So I did it. I put down 2 gallons of water Tuesday. Wednesday was like 1.5 gallons. Thursday, a quarter of a gallon. Small amount. Friday, nothing. So basically, I'm trying to cut the water weight, and I guess my body was trying to hold on to all of it. So I did salt baths, Epsom salt bath with green rubbing alcohol. I did that till about from 9 p.m. at night to 3 a.m. and only lost 3 pounds. Before that, I was in the sauna that day for about a 5.5 hour period on and off, trying to get some weight off. And then Friday morning, I was in the sauna from like 7:30 all the way up until it was time to leave it for weigh-ins at 12. And I finally got down to 191 from 203.
At 39, Doug, with 3 kids and a pressure washing business, is missing weight as detrimental to you versus Doug Usher at 29?
It's still the same to me. Whether I'm going into my first fight ever at 27, until this last fight here at 39, you're supposed to, your part of your job is to make the weight, and that's why I'm in the debate right now, because the last 2 fights I haven't made the weight. So I'm in a debate right now on what can I do to get my weight back down to walking around 204, 205 consistently, or go ahead and put on the extra weight and go up to 205, to which I would basically try to search for, because I'm too small for 205. I don't have the height. So I would search for 85ers that actually went up to 205. I would search for the guys like that to go against, and guys like over in St. Peru, the 6'4" former Tennessee defensive end, 240 that cuts down to 205. That's stupid for me to take a fight like that.
So I put a post out there, and I'm sure you saw it today, and I actually texted you, Julian, a minute ago about doing a long discussion of this maybe next week when we do have the Facebook Live going. Instead of doing a huge discussion tonight, I think maybe we postpone the full discussion of going into it. But you missed weight, and me and you are good friends, so I wanted to get your input of it. When a fighter misses weight or anything happens, a fighter misses weight, a fighter gets COVID, a fighter has an injury with no medical excuse, a fighter doesn't show up at weigh-ins between the 1 and 3 p.m., and a fighter just causes a fight to get canceled. Your fight still went on. Jared took the fight. He took the money overage, and the fight still went on. But should a fight get canceled at the weigh-ins or a day before weigh-ins or whatever, who, in your opinion, should pay the fighter that did what they were supposed to do? Say Jared walked out at weigh-ins. A lot of people always think the promoter should pay him, whether that's me or someone else. And I'm just discussing for all promotions. How do you think that should be handled better? Should a fighter that fucked up pay the other fighter? Should the promoter have to come out of pocket? Should be split? Like, what are your thoughts?
Well, as far as like a fighter having to pay another fighter out of their own pockets, I mean, that would probably end up being some type of legal issue. You would have to get lawyers and stuff like that involved in it, especially if it's a significant amount of money. But as far as fights getting canceled, like somebody's fight actually has to get canceled, I believe that the commission should punish the fighter. There's fighters that make it to fight week and pull out of fights consistently over and over and over and over and over, and some of these people don't ever get banned. You still see them getting rebooked on shows.
Yeah, I just saw a guy this week.
Scene.
Yeah, I don't want to name his name because I'm not here to bash him, but there's an Atlanta guy that unfortunately hasn't fought the last 2, 3, 4 times he's been advertised the fight. And it messes up the promotion, it messes up the other guy, it messes up the fans, because there's fans that plan to go get a nice steak dinner and then come to the fights, and you're messing up their Saturday night. And I just saw him booked for an out-of-state show. I saw the poster pop up yesterday, and I don't know what weight class it is. Maybe he's voluntarily going up a weight. I have no idea. But I think the commissions do need to step in and force a fighter at some point in time to go up a weight class or make some kind of punishment. You're punished for 6 months, whatever it might be.
Doug Usher, just in the case of you and Jared Gooden, if Jared said he didn't want to fight you because of the weight miss, how would you have taken that? And if you were in Jared's shoes, how did what does that decision look like essentially?
Well, I mean, I would have just dealt with it. They would have walked away and from the situation and took their show money. I would have been okay. Well, then we won't fight. But if it's me, like I've fought guys that missed weight before. Also, I took the fight anyway. I didn't even take any of their purse money. I just took the fight. Because at the end of the day, he's trying to feed his family like I'm trying to feed mine. We all got to take care of ourselves out here. So plus we can get seriously hurt doing this type of things. So yeah, it's like I would have still took the fight, if he would have missed weight because people are coming to see the fight and everything like that. So that's what it would have been with me.
Is this also kind of like that unspoken code that we speak on sometimes about fighters? What is kind of like the idea in your gym? Yeah, I know you can't speak for all fighters, but just with you, when it comes to fighters and missing weight and whether or not they should take the fight.
A lot of the times I leave it on my guys, I'll leave it on them. Hey man, you still want to fight or what? And most of the time they're like, I don't care, let's fight. I came to fight. Let's go on with the fight. I did all this training and everything, spent the money on the camp, the medicals. I'm still going to fight, So I usually leave it on them. I let them make the decision on whether they want to fight them or not, and they always fight them.
And this is my last one before I kick it to you, David. Let's say in the sense that Jared walks. Does Jared still supposed to get paid? And he says no, I don't want to fight you. You're too overweight. Does Jared still deserve to get paid?
Well, we're bound by a contract. So unfortunately, that's the way the contract's set up when you're pro. Unless somebody pulls with enough amount of time for notice, that fighter still gets paid their show money.
And that's what I want to discuss next week in longer with different fighters or managers on here. And maybe you don't read the contract that much, and I know a lot of people don't as well. But I actually disagree, and that's what I want to get your opinion of, because I think people are going to make it look like I'm the asshole. But my goal is actually to make sure fights happen. My goal is to make sure Jared does say yes at the weigh-ins. There's actually, and it's not even hidden. It's a paragraph by itself on the contract. It says if any fights are canceled at any point in time, neither fighter would be paid their purse money. Fighters are paid a purse money to, quote, fight, and a bonus to, quote, win their fight. If you don't fight, you will not get paid. So that's actually what's in my contract, and it's been in my contract for probably 5 or 6 years. I know at the weigh-ins, Matt Woodruff said to Jared, if you walk now, you get your show money. And I don't think Matt did anything wrong by saying that, because it's kind of always been understood that way. But I've asked Matt and the Athletic Commission for clarity on that for years, and they've always punted it back, saying it's not our decision. Whatever's in the contract between a fighter and promoter is what happens, and we're not here to dispute contracts. So I've oftentimes paid a fighter if the fight's canceled the day of the fight, the day of weigh-ins, maybe even a day or two before weigh-ins. I've asked the commission if there's a cutoff date or a percentage of it or anything. There's no rule. It's just what's in the contract. Where I don't know, in the future, I think I am going to force that a fight doesn't happen. Neither fighter gets paid, just because my goal is to put on fights.
Right. And I mean, NFC is a regional promotion. You really can't be throwing out money like that you're not going to get a return on. So I understand that from one businessman to another. I understand why you make your contract that way. And I mean, if I was in your shoes, trying to run a small regional promotion too, I would probably more than likely do the same thing, put that clause in the contract. Also, because at the end of the day, man, I mean, you got money on your end also.
Yeah.
Now, with that being said, if that is going to be the case, should you, if that's an old form of thinking that fighters should get paid just for weighing in. Do you think that maybe you should change the win bonus? It's like, look, if I fight, I'm going to get X amount of dollars. Or should you still have that win bonus clause in there? Because that's also something that has been a topic of conversation.
Well, if it was me, if I was in Dave's shoes, I would cut it to a percentage. If the fight where it was not to a pro fight was where it was not to happen, because of something like that, somebody decided not to fight because the other fighter missed weight, I would have it as a clause as to where it would be like a percentage of that win, but of that show money would go to the fighter that chose not to fight, because at the end of the day, you're still choosing not to fight. So I wouldn't give the entire show bonus or money, show money. You would get a percentage of it because you made a conscious decision not to go through with the fight. It was your decision not to do that. Or it wouldn't be too far-fetched to not give it to him at all. Mm-hmm. Because there was not a physical ailment to the other fighter, to the other party, to where they could not physically come out and perform. You decided not to perform. Yeah, you made the decision not to perform.
That's what I think as well. You have the opportunity.
So now that I look at it that way, the way Dave thinks makes a lot of sense now. So yeah, I'm 100% on board with him, because there's no injury, there's no sickness. You chose not to fight because the other guy missed weight.
But let's talk about that choice as well. Like there's levels to somebody choosing that. Like, let's just say, and I can't speak for Jared, but if Jared's trying to continue to progress his career and now he's fighting somebody that is severely weighs more than him, that could maybe, if he's decided, no, I don't want to take that fight, he's also making a business decision for his career. Like, you're a fighter. Could you look at it from that perspective as well?
Yeah, I can. If somebody comes in like 10, 12, 13 pounds overweight, something like they didn't even try to make weight, then I can understand that. If they come in, they're regular weight, like say if it was a 155 fight and the guy comes in damn near 170, you didn't try. You didn't even, you didn't run, you didn't jump rope, you didn't even break a sweat during camp. You came in at the weight you was when you left the buffet, so as for someone who I came in at 191 when I was supposed to be 87, that's not that much of a difference from where I would have been at 87. I would have still been the same size the next night. Mm-hmm. It's just 4 pounds. It would have been water.
So I guess that's us defining, like, what is that number? Like,
right.
You're a fighter. What is that number? Overweight. So where it's like, nah, he didn't try.
Right. Right. For
number?
me, it would be somebody coming in. We were fighting at 85. Somebody coming in at 200, 205. You didn't even, you didn't try. You didn't try to make the weight. So at that point, yeah, it's a concern, because that person may have been around 220 and just got down right there and just was like, you know what? I'm staying here. You fight or you don't want to fight.
And at that point in time, that fight can't even take place. Once at your weight class, 185, you guys both had to be within 9 pounds of each other. So when I found out you were going to be heavy, I talked to Jared, find out what he weighed. He was actually underweight, I think 172 or 173. And I had to actually tell Jared to stop off at McDonald's and get a couple cheeseburgers and start drinking some Coke to get him up in weight, because I knew you'd be about 191. So I had to make sure he was over about 183, 184, with no exception. Need to make sure he was over that weight. But we talk about weight causing issues for fights a lot, but, even dumb things like laziness. What if a fighter just waits till Wednesday or Thursday to get his eye exam done? You get your eye exam done maybe Thursday, the day before weigh-ins. You fail your eye exam. Turns out you never knew it, but your eyes just aren't very good. And that cancels the fight the day before weigh-ins. It brings up the same question. Who pays for something like that? If you fail an eye exam, or it turns out you have hepatitis B and you never knew that, does the promoter come out of pocket and pay the other fighter? Or who gets paid in those situations?
Well, at that point, you waited that late to do your exams, knowing you had to do them at least 2 weeks out. Need to be turned in at least 2 weeks prior to. to fight week, and you turn it in 2 days prior to the fight. So I think that should be on the athlete because you had plenty of notice to get your blood and eye work in long before the fight was ever supposed to schedule.
But I can't find a fighter. I mean, if Jared failed his eye exam on Thursday and your fight versus him was canceled, you'd still want to get paid by me. But it's not like I can go to Jared and say, "Hey, man, you failed your eye exam on Friday. You waited till the last minute. I'm not paying Doug his purse money. You pay Doug his purse money." People are crucifying me if I try to do something like that. So that's the problem.
Right.
That's the question I've had for 20 years is who pays the fighter that did what they were supposed to do, or does that fighter even get paid if there's not a fight?
Well, didn't you do something like that with Ben Brewer when I fought him for not showing up on for the Vic K fight?
I have no idea what I did. I'd have to look back. That was probably
and I think he had to fight. I think he had to fight for free because he was a no-show for the Vic K fight.
So I think once in a while the athletic commission will actually suspend and hold it to the guy. And there is one fighter here in Atlanta that is suspended until he chooses to pay us because he blew off the weigh-in as well. And if you want, you can hit me later and I'll tell you who that is. But he's actually suspended for lifetime till he pays me, I think, $250 because that's what I paid the opponent. And that's the only time I can think of, maybe Ben Brewer, where guys were actually penalized because I had to pay for their fuck ups, basically. And I've told Matt Woodruff I wish the athletic commission did this every time because I think it would encourage more fighters to get their blood done weeks in advance, get their eyes done week in advance. If there's a weigh-in at 1 o'clock and they have to be there between 1 and 3, they show up by noon and be in the parking lot at noon to make sure they don't blow a flat tire on the way. I've always thought if we penalize fighters more, it would cause a better incentive for fighters to do their job to ensure both guys have a fight. It would make me look like the asshole, but I think it would make sure more fights happen, which is the goal.
Right. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on that.
Doug Usher, as somebody that's been fighting for a majority of his adult lifetime, man, like just how important is it for you to get these fight checks, man, after all the work that you put in? Like, could you imagine if you did put in the work, you made the weight, and you weren't able to get paid from anybody?
I mean,
he beat my ass. Doug would come beat my little ass.
I'd feel some kind of way, you know. Like I said, I've been fighting since I was 27, 39 now. I got started late. A lot of these guys have been fighting since they were 18, 19, 20 years old. So I guess that's why I can keep while I'm still going. But yeah, you know, the amount of work you put in, all the money you spend during the fight camp, you know, you got to pay coaches and stuff, especially when you're on a level like mine, you can pay coaches and you know, things like that. And you have to pay fight camps. So, you know, I don't want to make it back to the end of doing something that you love. This sport, it doesn't, you know, it doesn't pay like boxing. You have to really love what it is that you do if you're doing this. Because I've always said, like, especially recently, any one of us that gets in the cage and decides to get in a fist fight with each other, throwing punches and knees and kicks and elbows, there's a little something wrong with all of us. Something has happened to us in our lives that's traumatized us to where we'll go lock ourselves in a damn cage and basically try to end each other's lives. So it is kind of important to get that check at the end to try to, you know, to at least try to break even, even if you lose the fight, you know, but you're doing something that you love to do. And a lot of people, man, this is something that was on their bucket list. And for a lot of us fighters, you know, especially that's been through a lot in life, it's an outlet for us. You know,
is a rematch with Jared Gooden something you're interested in, or have you guys ended what happened?
I have no clue if he's interested in it. I'm open to rematching anyone that I've ever fought from amateur to pro. I'll rematch anybody. I'll honor them with the rematch because it's after you fought somebody, especially after you go to war, you know, is, in my opinion, it's respect. So if that person asks you for a rematch, in my opinion, in my mindset, I will always honor that man with a rematch out of respect for true competitors and to see who is the better fighter or the better martial artist between the both. That way you've already shared 15 minutes or either 25 minutes with that person in the ring, going after each other. So that means it would mean a lot to me for any of my former opponents to reach out and ask for a rematch. You will always be honored with the rematch out of respect and out of the samurai code and the martial arts code. I will always honor any former opponent with the rematch.
I guess my question more was, you were up 2-0. You were on your way to probably a 3-0 win in that fight until the broken hand. Are you going to be bugging me and Jesse for a rematch? Is that something you want?
First, I have to see which weight class we're going to compete at. If we were to rematch after the hand heals, we'd have to go up in weight, and I'm not sure if he wants to do that, because it was a battle trying to get the fight anyway. If I could find a way to trim my weight back down, which I was in talks with someone today about it, some methods and ways that I could go to try to accomplish that, so I could stay at 85 and not go up to 205, then I'll still be around, and that's for anybody out there that wants to try it at 85, new opponent or former opponent. I'll always be here, and I'll be ready to go. But right now, I have to figure out which weight class I can try to adjust my body to, especially getting ready to be 40 years old in January. I have to figure out, which path is going to be the best one for me.
Doug Usher, ultimately, I feel like you proved your point, which was, last time you came and talked to us, you essentially was like, look, I'm not afraid of anybody. You're going to call me out. I'll honor the call out. I'll fight you. I thought we were friends. You thought something else. I'll fight you. You went in there for a round and a half. It seemed like you handled your business. You weren't afraid. You dealt out a lot of punishment. And, ultimately your hand broke. The decision didn't go your way. But I felt as if your point was proven, that you are a martial artist. You will fight anybody, anywhere, at any time.
Yeah, anywhere at any time. As far as the fight goes, it was an exciting fight. He held his ground. I held my ground. I felt like we went out there and did what we set out to go in there and do. I felt that the fans got the fight of the year. Like in the middle of that second round, when me and him was throwing, we was trading, and then we had a big exchange. The crowd went crazy, and we stepped back and looked at each other. Right there in my head, I goes, "It's fight of the year. It's fight of the year. Let's go. Let's keep going." Wop, 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 wop. We were back at it, So I enjoyed myself, even though I felt like I was fighting in half capacity. I enjoyed the fight, and I believe I earned his respect after that. When he came over and talked to me, and he told me that he didn't mean any disrespect that he said. And I understood him. But I'm a competitor. He's a competitor. That dog in the background whining is a competitor.
Man, that's my dog. I'm about to beat his little ass. Like I've already
you got on to me last time about the quietness now, and you can't talk no shit now.
This is a dog from Jason Everhart, and Jason Everhart's dog that he gave me is about to get his little ass whooped. It's going to be the first fight I've been in since second grade, and I'm going to come out on top of this one.
He sure did get on you about being in the dark, man, but you did a damn good job of making sure that you was in a well-lit place today, Doug.
Right. Now that dog is bigger than him, so you better be careful. He might single leg you.
That part, exactly.
Everything's bigger than me.
Now, we've been promoting this fight for the last 2 months, month and a half, man. We did the, you talked to us beforehand. You did the promos with Jenna Lee. You took part in the fight, the weight cut, the everything, man. Like, after all of this has taken place, man, how can you really surmise these last 2 months?
It was tough, but it was a really good camp. It was a really great fight camp. I had some really a lot of fun. I had some really good energy out there going into this fight. And yeah, that just carried me the whole camp, man. So this was one of the best fight camps I'd ever been in. The cut was tough. Like I said, the weight cut was real tough. That was real hard on me. Mentally had to struggle through that. But, I did the best I could with what my body would give me. Next go around, I'm pretty sure I probably will not water load if I go back to 85. I just think my body couldn't handle it. It was probably just too much at one time. Other than that, man, it was an excellent fight camp. And I got a lot closer to the guys at American Top Team with that. And I got a lot closer with those guys. So it was a really good thing. It was a really good thing.
My final question to you is how's your daughter?
She's good. We're talking more. I messaged her before the fight, messaged her after the fight, told her what happened. She was like, "Oh, you feel bad?" I said, "No, baby." I said, I went in there. I dedicated that fight to you. I went in there and I fought for you, and I fought my heart out until my hand gave out. So I did what I set out to do. And, I never cared about the belt. The fight to me wasn't for the belt. I really didn't even recognize that belt was there. So the fight to me was was the fight itself, and to honor my daughter, my oldest daughter, who tried to commit suicide a few weeks ago at 16 years old. So that's the reason I was fighting, and I fought the way I did, even though when my body was telling me to give up. I kept marching through it because I was fighting for someone and not for myself.
First off, I threw that dog outside. I hope a fox or coyote comes and eats the shit out of my dog right now. And I'm going to ask Jason Everhart for a refund on my money. But me and Stein over at District joke that you've retired after every single fight in the last 2 years. You actually broke your hand in this one. Why didn't you retire after this one? I mean, it's almost the perfect opportunity to.
I got so much love, man. My inbox is overloaded. Instagram, Messenger, text messages, but just people just congratulating me on the fight. And my coaches was like, "That's the best you've ever looked. You ain't never looked that good before. That was a different animal in there," and I really appreciated it. So, there's always, at my age, there's always, thoughts in your head that this could be the last fight. But after the amount of just love and support that I got after Saturday night, and losing the fight, because I smashed my hand to pieces, just the amount of support and just the good job, and everybody was telling me how good I did, just keeps that battery in my back going to go out there and keep it rolling. And I got to go back in my camp and change some things and some training. I had to change some of my training around too, so I can be a little more technical the next time I go out.
Dr. Usher, I do agree with that. I do agree this is the best you've looked in a fight in a very long time. And I said to someone sitting next to me, I was like, damn, I thought you were going to gas after one round with the weight cut and the age and maybe losing a little bit of steam and your other business doing so well right now. I thought you were going to gas after one round, but you proved me wrong. And I do agree that was the best you've looked in a very long time that I've seen. While you're out right now and the rematch might not happen, Amir Dadovic has hit us up about Amir fighting Jared for the title belt. They fought back in 2016. That's now been about there. 6 years. Yeah, they fought at you've been at every single fight I've had, so of course you were there.
Cowboys, yeah, they fought at Cowboys.
It was NFC 84 in 2016. Yep. Jared won that fight. What's your thoughts on Amir Dadovic versus Jared?
Good fight. I think Amir would be prepared for the ground this go around. Jared took him down all 3 rounds last time they fought. It was a good game plan. I mean, Amir's a good stand-up guy. You really don't want to stand and trade with that guy a lot. So, he's a great Muay Thai fighter. Always has been a great Muay Thai fighter. He's got his jiu-jitsu black belt now, and he's pretty good on the ground. So it'd be a very, very interesting fight.
That was my question, is how do you think it would go different than years ago? Because I guess when we're always looking to make a fight, if it has already happened, we try to think of how would it go different than it did years ago. And I think Jared's at the top of his game right now. Had a couple UFC losses, but he is at the top right now and haven't seen anything truly phenomenal competitive wise out of Amir lately. I don't think he was even competed in the last year or two, really. So that's what I was talking to Jesse about, is why we'd want to make that for the title, and what has Amir shown to do that. So it's interesting seeing you say it would be pretty competitive now.
Yeah, I think it would be competitive. Although we hadn't seen Amir fight in a long time, it would be pretty competitive. And I think Amir has always wanted to run that fight back. So I think it would sell, honestly, because Amir still has a huge following and fan base. So apparently Jared does too. So that would be a great fight. A great fight. And I think it would sell out.
You do know your fan base Saturday night was a lot bigger than Jared's. I love both you guys, but your fan base was larger Saturday night.
One more for the old guys.
Now, we had on Tony Hope just right before you came on, Doug, and we do appreciate your time, man. I know we've had you a while here on the pod, bro, but you're definitely an OG of the game. And I saw that as I go to all the different gyms and I talk to different fighters, man, they respect you. They respect Doug Usher at different gyms around here. But we had Tony Hope on. I would love to see him and your pupil, Seth Haas, go at it, man. What are your thoughts on Seth? We saw him fight a couple weeks ago against Cameron Burton. You obviously trained with him. He is a pupil of yours. What do you think about Seth? And then, I saw you were on and heard a little bit about what Tony Hope had to say. What do you think about that young man?
All right, first of all, I want to turn this stupid thing off on this truck. First of all, I want to address that baby bottle that Oblas is drinking out of. He's drinking juice out of a baby bottle with a sippy cup. That looked like a sip. Put the sippy cup back up. Don't cheat.
This is all
Don't cheat. Put the sippy cup back up. All right. It looked like a sippy cup for a second. That was a sippy cup. You playing with me. You put a bottle in on purpose because somebody saw it.
You're smiling too much. I'm going to take a photo of this.
Yeah. So as far as the fight, Seth, there's a reason I call that kid 40 cal. When he hits pads or he hits a bag, like something's wrong with this kid. Like he'll really walk through the gym and we'll just be talking at the gym. He'll walk through the gym and you'll hear bow. And you just turn around and he's punched something in the gym. And I'm like, dude, what is wrong? What's wrong with you? And then he just does this right here and he walks off. And I just look at people. I say, that kid just randomly punches shit all the time. He does it daily. Just walks by stuff and just blasts it. So you just have to be prepared for that. But when he hits pads, like his power, it sounds like somebody's actually shooting a gun, like a 40, like a Glock 40. Like, bow, 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 bow. So that's why I gave him the nickname 40 cal. The kid's got a lot of talent, man. I still been working with him on his kickboxing. He's not a kickboxer, he's a boxer. But he grew up doing karate. He is a black belt in American karate, but he got his black belt when he was like 12 years old, and then he crossed over and been boxing ever since. Now he's like 22 or 23. So he's a boxer at heart. That's what he knows. So I've been the last fight, I was trying to reincorporate his karate into his fighting style. So that's why we saw him kick a little bit more the last fight. I was like, Seth, we're going to go back to your roots. We're going to go back to your karate. Bring your black belt with you when you walk to the ring. That's why he walked out with his gi and his black belt on. So I've been working with him on that. So now he's throwing a lot more kicks at the end of his punches. But then, he messes around and gets hit one time, and then he blanks out and goes here and turns into that boxer and comes forward and tries to clean your head off, but he's a really tough kid, man. He's getting better. We're going to try to cross him over into MMA at some point, but right now he's loving the kickboxing, and he wants a rematch with old boy that's got that belt, because that fight was a draw. He wants that fight back. Before I guess that the last guy could take the winner of the rematch, but that rematch for that belt has to happen, because that was a title fight that ended in a draw. We want to run that back.
I'm trying to look at the guy's name as we talk. It was
Cameron
was
Burton.
it Cameron Burton? Yeah. And I think
great. Hey, that was a good fight.
Yeah, I think
It
Cameron said
was.
he's locked up with another fight till at least January or February, or a tournament or something like that. So I think we're looking at sometime later next year, early next year. And correct me if I'm wrong, but Seth's stomach was pretty red and messed up after that fight. So I think we're going to give him a little bit of time also.
Oh, he was fine. He's back in the gym the next week.
All right, shows I don't know what the hell I'm talking about.
Yeah.
What about?
Yeah.
I was going to ask you about Krista. Is Krista done, or is she getting any better?
She's back training. She's back in the gym with the rest of the team. Just
Every
not
time,
going super hard.
do you think her career's over for fighting, or are you expecting her back?
She'll be back.
Okay.
You know, she went through this in 2017, 2018.
Are you at a
or
racetrack?
19? No, 2019. 2019.
Are you
BP
at a
this time.
BP?
BP this time. We got a lot better lighting.
Do people think you're like a little pervert there sitting in your car talking to yourself
No, they know I'm talking on the phone.
with the crying dog in the background?
Yeah,
just got his ass
They
whipped.
know I'm on the phone. And a little bitty Jewish guy drinking out of sippy cup.
Is he having something?
Hey, I love to see that just y'all's relationship, man. That's a beautiful thing. Doug, before we part ways this evening, man, your final thoughts, man. Something on your mind, your body, your spirit, your soul you want to leave us here with on the NFC Now pod.
Man, I left the ring feeling good. And that's all that mattered. You know, I left the ring feeling accomplished. You know, didn't win the fight because I broke my hand. You know, that sucks, but I just really enjoyed the moment, you know, being out there. I enjoyed the moment. I enjoyed all my fans that came out, you know, that supported me. And I had the thing about that was that whole camp, you know, it was my first time actually in a very, very, very long time enjoying, you know, fight camp and the fight and everything else. So even though I felt like crap during the fight, I was so thankful afterwards that it just made everything just delightful for me. Like today was a really good day for me. I really enjoyed myself, even though I have to have surgery on my hand. You know, the X-ray showed the break and everything. You know, I still went out to where my grandmother lives out in Latonia and just hung out there for a little bit and just enjoyed the breeze and made a little video and sat on the bench right there on the main street all by myself, just relaxing and just enjoying the moment and just being thankful, you know, for being a part of all of this.
And it was cool for us also because I don't get emotional. I'm not going to. But I've liked you and Jared for a long time. I feel like you guys started your amateur career with NFC. You guys have fought all the way back from the beginning of NFC, Wild Bills and stuff like that, dealing with you guys as amateurs. I think he said last week that he hit me up when he was either in high school or 17 years old, and I helped him find his first gym, Philippe Gentry. Before Philippe was even SBG, I think he was possibly Eagle Kickboxing or Gentry's Fitness back then. So when we saw you guys beefing online and you guys called for this fight, we didn't have a show in October, and I called Stein over at District, and would you even entertain a special 5 to 9 p.m. show? I don't know if people will come out. I don't know if I can afford what they want. I don't think I can put any other pro fighters on this card because of the purse money that you guys wanted and the purse money that you guys really deserved. I didn't know how the fans would show up in a 5 to 9 show. Going to the calendar, I knew it was Tennessee versus Alabama. I knew there was a couple good boxing MMA fights on. I knew in October people like to be outside at 5 p.m. So we created an event just around you guys, almost like McGregor versus Diaz. But I told Jesse and Charlene that's our job as the number one fight promoter in Georgia. When these opportunities come up, it's our job to find a way to make them happen. So it was kind of cool for us to see this take place and to go from nothing in 4 weeks to what it was and kind of a special, unique event.
Yeah. Stein put that fight on because it was me. I believe when Stein, because he keeps missing all my fights, man. People don't know I've known Stein for years, from when I bounced at Flip Flops for 10 years. He worked downstairs. He was the manager at the Cuckoo Room. And we would always mop the floors at night and spill a bunch of water down there. And he would run upstairs and kick in the back door to Flip Flops and be like, "Downstairs is flooded. Stop pouring that fucking mop water all over the place." Cuss us out. And I always would go downstairs afterwards and mess with him and come in the back door and be like, "Door's open." I say that every time. Stein. He look over, I go, doors open because it's supposed to stay locked. So me and Stein go way back, and he kept missing my fights there at the district. He was like, man, every time I'm out of town, man, you're fighting here. I'm tired of missing your fights. So I'm like, Dave, when you told me about it, I was like, I only want the district. He's like, let's do Tannery Row. I was like, no. He's like, Pink Pony. I was like, no. I said, only at the district. He's like, well, I don't think Stein's gonna do it. Tell Stein I'm fighting, then he'll do it. Yeah. So I believe that's the reason why he did it when he finally got to see me fight again.
Yeah, I mean, we stuck around till 1:30 in the morning the other night, just checking out the EDM. I've never been to the EDM show, and I was hanging out with Stein and other people there, and the bartenders were yelling at me. They're like, we're going to be here till 4 in the morning, and it's because of you that we had to get here at 3 p.m. to start setting up. So, even the bartenders and security guys get there at 3 p.m. for a 5 p.m. show. We end at 10. We completely flipped the room from 10 to 11. They open up at 11:30. They had 1,200 people in there Saturday night, and they're open till 3 in the morning and don't leave till 4. So you're talking about every person on staff at District had over a 12-hour day just to make this fight happen the way it is. So it's pretty cool that a lot of people don't know that stuff that goes into it. But when Stein agreed to do that, I think his bartenders made money, but I think everyone there kind of hated us. So
cocaine. That's the secret to those late club nights. Cocaine, ladies and gentlemen. Madre coca is cocaine.
Doug Usher, man.
That's it.
You the man. We appreciate you for just taking time to join us on the pod today, bro. And I think most importantly, man, I think your spirit speaks for itself, bro. As David said, he rarely catches you smiling, man. I just been looking at the screen the whole time, bro. You've been happy, and I don't know whether that's you not having to work for anybody else, you being in control of your own destiny, or you just being just a complete martial artist, not saying no to anybody and stepping in the cage with everybody to do what you do, or the fact that you're able to just have that dialogue with your daughter, and y'all just continue to just flow and move, and her be here and just be strong, man. So, hey, man, we respect you. And not just David and I, the NFC community, the fight fans, man, we respect you for going out there and putting on a hell of a show, a hell of a performance, man, and showing that, hey, Doug Usher is still one of the top fighters here in this region, man. So thank you for joining us here on NFC Now.
Thank y'all, man. I enjoyed my time here on the show.
Indeed.
Peace. I had to hit the remove button on the thing. We kind of ended with him a couple times, but there's really no good way to end it. So I had to click end to get him out of there.
Did we end with him a couple times? I feel like it was flowing. I feel like that flow. He was on for what time is it? It's 8:47. He had to be on for a cool
30 minutes probably. Oh.
Maybe 45.
I think I said 4 times. This is my last question, and then I still have another question.
I love to see this y'all's relationship, man. It seems like y'all have had a relationship for a really long time.
Yeah, and it is bad because sometimes you do need to negotiate with these guys and talk about money and yell at them when they miss weight and discuss the contracts and stuff like that you don't like to discuss and what the penalties should be. But yeah, I mean, Doug's always been a cool guy. He's been a nice guy. He's a leader, independent MMA and fitness. So yeah, I think there's a lot of people that like Doug, except the people that got to fight him. So.
What do you think about his answers to the question of should fighters get paid?
I think I want to talk about it more in depth with a couple people next week. I think we get a couple managers on here. We get a couple pro fighters on here, and even we've seen it from his wife, Krista. His wife was supposed to fight for us a couple months ago. She had to pull out because of her surgery, which caused the other girl to not have a fight. It was more than a week in advance. It was a couple weeks in advance, so there's no talk about paying the other girl. I liked his answers. I appreciated it. I think when he saw my comments, he kind of said, I agree with you. I think you are right now that I see it that way. So I think it's a discussion we have next week with a lot of different guys, and I'd like to see their opinions. And, if they were Discount Dana, if they were sitting in my shoes, what they would do about the situation. Not just me being an asshole, but it's my job to make sure fights happen. We should not tell Jared Gooden at weigh-ins, you can go home and not take this fight and you'll still get paid. I don't think that statement should happen. I don't think we should ever engage in that. I think it should be, you take this fight, or you're not getting paid. Which you might hate that answer to, but it makes sure that fight happens for Doug, for Jared, for all their friends, for all their family. You know, if Doug needs to pay people out, like his trainers, his gym membership, his nutritionist, it gets money into his pocket so those people get paid. I think once you tell people you can choose not to do this, you know, there's NFL players, and I'm not a sports agent. I just read a lot of news articles. You know, there's NFL athletes. Some of them have a guaranteed money if they get injured, and some of them don't. It just depends on their contract and how valuable they are, how many years they've been in the league and stuff like that. You know, fighting is a sport where you should not have guaranteed pay unless you get in the cage and both guys fight.
So what's the incentive of making weight?
Well, if you miss weight, you owe your opponent money. So that's the immediate effect. Part of your purse money goes to your opponent. So that's the immediate effect. Secondary effect is the athletic commission, if you miss weight 1 or 2 times, can make you go up a weight class. They can force Doug now to go from 185 to a catch weight at 195. Promoters could choose to not book Doug or any other fighter if they continually miss weight. If I see that a guy misses weight a couple times, I'm not going to book him versus another guy on my card, knowing we're probably going to see him miss weight and the fight canceled. So I just won't go down that path.
Realistically, when we have fighters on the pod, man, how open do you think they are with you? You know, you being here, like you're the boss. You know, like how do you feel like fighters are all the way comfortable with you? Like, yeah, we had Doug Usher on. Y'all obviously have a relationship. But do you think if a fighter did disagree with that, they would be comfortable with just like?
I think they would, because I don't think I'm an intimidating person at all, and I don't think I'm intimidating on this podcast we do. I think I talk to them like their buddy, another co-host on here, and like their friend. I don't think we put them in bad positions. I don't think we ask them the very difficult questions to answer, and I think when we do, I think it usually comes from you and not me. But I think we give them softballs to hit out of the park here on the podcast. I don't think we hit them with the very difficult ones. We do everything we can to put them in a positive light.
Because to be fair, this is a very sensitive topic. You know, we're talking about like money now. You know what I'm saying? And like, you know, you might call yourself Discount Dana, but you're the money man. You know what I'm saying?
If Jared and Doug don't fight and that fight card is canceled, do I pay you for announcing?
Essentially, no. Yeah, like I didn't announce.
So I'm doing my best to make sure you have a gig. I'm protecting Julian Virgin. I'm protecting the ring car girls. All those people that were planning on getting to the venue at 3 p.m., the bartenders, the barbacks, the security, they all planned on working a gig Saturday starting at 3 p.m. and getting paid. If the Doug versus Jared fight explodes at the weigh-in and doesn't happen and the whole show's canceled, I completely fucked over all those people and didn't do my job, didn't do my best to make sure it happens. You know, Flow Combat that pays me to put the shows on air, they're not going to have very many viewers because the Doug Usher versus Jared Gooden was canceled. The whole event was canceled. So it's a complete trickle-down effect to everybody. And I think people need to understand that my goal is to make sure the fights happen. I think Dana White's goal is to make sure the fights happen. You know, Don King made all the fights happen. You know, I think people look at fight promoters with a negative image. They need to start looking at us as small business owners. That's all I am. Just like Julian Virgin, just like Flatline Cinema, I am a small business owner trying to make ends meet, trying to develop a product, develop a profit on these shows. And if you do that 1 or 2 times, if you have shows canceled, people aren't going to continue coming out to your show. And the fighters, I don't think would put their trust in me that we're going to do everything that might make the fight happen. This is why we get the big fights.
Indeed. Again, ladies and gentlemen, this is NFC Now. I'm Julian Virgin. That's David Oblas. A very compelling conversation that we look forward to having in depth, in full, on next week's pod. So y'all make sure y'all tune in. We don't know who's going to be on, but we know exactly what we'll be talking about. We'll continue this dialogue about whether the fighter pay versus like promoter responsibility and who is liable when it comes to that. Because, I mean, ultimately, we're all working together in order to make this thing happen, right? Like, we're all kind of this is a mutualistic relationship. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
and I could be nothing but an amateur fight promoter. If I wanted to, I could just do all. It wouldn't even be Jesse Wable's amateur series. It'd be the NFC amateur series. That would be all we were, is amateur fights. But I like these discussions. I like these arguments going back and forth. I like paying fighters. I think they deserve to get paid. I think you should want to go from amateur to pro. And I think all the amateurs that were in that room as we were discussing this at the weigh-ins got to see a little bit of piece of what they're going to have as they turn pros. And we want them to know how important it is to make weight, how important it is to show up, and to read through the contract. Like, read through the contract, because the answers to most of your questions are there. If you do not fight, you will not get paid. If that's a question, it's right there in black and white.
And I'm assuming that as you've been doing this for the past 20 some odd years, man, like you've updated your contract and off of the things that you've experienced, and you've put verbiage in the contract based off of the things that you've experienced.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why the contract is 4 pages. It used to be 1 page. My attorney went through it and made it 4 pages, but it's not confusing. It's very easy to read. I want fighters to read it. Fighters should have someone else read it for them. You know, you don't have to go get an attorney. You don't have to go pay them money. You don't even have to pay someone 20% of your purse money till you reach the upper echelon. But have someone with some intelligence read it to you, explain it to you, even call me with your questions so we can make sure you understand it correctly. But yeah, we've definitely updated, and you fight, you get paid. You don't fight, you should not get paid. That's my theory, and I can't wait for us to talk about this more next week. I want to get some managers on here and get their input. If they disagree with me, I'd love to be educated on their theory.
And that's why you should tune into the NFC Now podcast, because there's always going to be a topic of discussion, something that we're going to have to tackle here. And it may be a difficult discussion, but, hey, we look forward to tackling it next week on the pod. Before we wrap today's pod, I want to hit a couple things, man. We briefly talked about the 150 card, but there were some very interesting things, in my opinion, that took place. You introduced pro wrestling. Mm-hmm. How did you think that went over?
I thought it was okay. So District started doing district wrestling there on Sundays. They actually held it yesterday, the day after the fight. They're doing it once a month there on Sundays. The promoter, that's a pretty cool guy. And like Usher was talking about, the owner Stein of District has become a friend of mine. And anything they do, I want to help promote the best that we can. And he said, what are your ideas of promoting the district wrestling that we do here? How can we get it out to your fan base? So we've been talking about it for a while. I was like, why don't we put one of y'all's wrestling matches on our card? So I talked to the promoter and said, hey, find me 2 young guys that are going to make it entertaining. I want them to jump off the cage wall, the 6-foot wall. I want them to do backflips, this and that. They were not the most athletic, entertaining guys I've ever seen in my life. It wasn't the best wrestling match I think that they could have put forward in front of 500 new fans, but it was somewhat entertaining. I don't think it's something we're going to do very often. It was cool for one thing to do on this show. Maybe we do it again if there's a reason to, but I don't think MMA fans truly, how do I say this? I think it was cool, but it's not something we're going to do every time. It wasn't that cool.
So from my perspective, and again, I'm just the lonely announcer up there, man. I thought, I'm not even a wrestling fan. I just got to put that out there. I'm not a wrestling fan. I watched a little when I was younger. I thought that it was so different that it made people say, like, what the fuck? You know what I'm saying? It kind of like, but it captured their attention because it was so different. And
it was different. I think we got a lot of IG photos and videos out of it. I think it was unique where people were like, holy shit, this is wrestling going on in the NFC cage. I think it was cool and fun. We might do it again if the situation presents itself. Maybe a tag team female match or something like that might be super fun and dope. But NFC is not a wrestling promotion.
Understood. And I think that it's like a wild card that you throw in there every now and then. And I think it did land. I don't want to, again, I speak for myself. I would love if everybody dropped a comment. Let us know exactly how you felt about the wrestling match that happened in between the card. But I did think it was like you know how sometimes we'll take an intermission. Mm-hmm. It was kind of like a break in the action, but it was also entertainment, and that added to the show.
So would you do it again?
Excuse me?
If you were me, would you do it again?
I would.
Okay.
Selectively. Like, not all the time. I think it's one of those things. It's like, you do it once, it's like, oh, okay, that's clever, but you don't want to overdo it. But I would continue to throw it in there. I was entertained. Again, I'm not even a wrestling fan. I was looking, but I was still looking. It had my attention, Secondly, the tag team jiu-jitsu match was incredible.
Yeah.
I thought that was amazing. And that was the first time I had ever experienced it. And to the point where I felt like, as the announcer, I didn't do a good enough job of explaining what the hell was going on to the fans because I truly didn't understand what I was about to witness.
Yeah.
I talked to Northside Nate very briefly when I was in the cage, and I was like, as I was introducing him, he was like kind of telling me the rules, but I didn't know it enough. From his explanation, I didn't know it enough in order to get on the microphone and tell everybody else in that building. But after I was watching it, I was compelled. It was compelling. It was dope.
Yeah, so that was the second time we've done the tag team. We did the tag team the first time at the with the jiu-jitsu match a couple months ago, and you weren't there. Kimberly Sargent was the announcer for that one. It was SBG versus Octopus. It wasn't that good. We didn't think both teams truly understood how they could tag team each guy in, how long they'd get 2-on-1 action, and the benefits of it. So I know after that, Clay Bennett and I talked a few times. Clay, the referee and matchmaker for NFC Jiu-Jitsu, and we set this one up, and I think he talked to both teams. I think he trained with the All Ambition team a little bit, and I think Nate trains obviously at Warrior. So I think both of them did a better job of explaining to both teams, this is tag team. You can tag your guy in. It's 5 seconds of 2-on-1 action, and they fully took advantage of that. And it was a hell of a lot better than the first time we did tag team, and I think absolutely something we're going to do again on jiu-jitsu shows. And talking to Clay, I was always leaning away from doing jiu-jitsu in an MMA cage, but I think we've all seen jiu-jitsu in MMA cage now a couple times, and I think we like it. So we're going to still do jiu-jitsu 12 to 15 matches on the NFC Jiu-Jitsu night like normal. That's not going to go away, but I think we are going to start incorporating 1 or 2 jiu-jitsu matches in the cage because I think fans are starting to like that more than they did a while ago. And I did also notice that I didn't do a good enough job of explaining to you the rules of the tag team, giving you a note or a printout of that, because I thought you could have did a better job announcing to the crowd, okay, that's 1 tag. They only allowed 4 tags. That's tag number 2. That's tag number 3. So I think if we did that on the microphone and explained it to people, they would have gotten more excited and known what's going on at that point in time.
Absolutely, and we'll continue to work on that. But yeah, I had no knowledge. I just knew it was tag 2-2, and I was all right 2-2. But when the second person hopped in, that's what really captivated. Everybody was like, "Oh, whoa, what's going on here?" And then they would hop out. I think, personally, after watching it, I think that tag team jiu-jitsu should be on every NFC card.
Yeah, I agree. I think so, and I think we should also make it either for a title belt or, if not a title belt, something cool and different, where if your team wins, they have to defend it next time. Maybe it's not the same 2 guys if they're available, but if SBG Atlanta wins this time in tag team, SBG Atlanta has to put 2 guys up next time to defend the tag team title of the NFC. Like, I think that would be something dope to start following around and make like a tag team cup out of it.
I think that'll be dope, and that'll incentivize other gyms to send people so they can compete for this belt, for this tag team belt. Yeah, I thought tag team jiu-jitsu landed better than wrestling, and I thought wrestling it wasn't terrible at all. So that was a couple of highlights. I had to mention our girl fight between Chloe Greeley and Kelly Jerseld. Shout out to her family that was behind us. Got to shout out the ladies. Chloe, to me, she won all 3 rounds. I think that was how the fight was scored as well. She did an amazing job. I know we had them on the pod a little earlier. Your thoughts?
Chloe's a badass. Kelly is as well. She's had a lot of fights. It's only her second fight with us, I think. But Chloe's proven that she's fought in every single girl in Atlanta from, I think, 115 to 135. Won this fight. She's probably not the strongest fighter in the world. She doesn't have a lot of knockouts, but she's tough as hell. She fights everyone. She makes it a dog fight in there. Goes 3 rounds on every fight. She's had a title belt for us before. She's one of those girls that'll just fight anyone. And it's weird when we talk about amateur and pros. I think if Chloe ever decides to go pro, she's probably not going to be as active. She's not going to get a lot of fights because there's not a lot of pro females out there 115 to 125. But I think if she stays amateur, there's more good fights for her. It sucks not getting paid as an athlete. I get that. But I think there's a cool rematch of her and Saba coming down the pipeline, hopefully. I know Saba wants it. I think Chloe will accept it. Well, I know Chloe will accept it. So it's just dependent on timing. But yeah, I think at amateur, she can make a lot of good fights happen, potentially win a title belt. But if she goes pro, I think unfortunately she might see less fights in her career stalled out for a little while.
And shout out to Chloe Greeley. I gotta also say, you mentioned Saba. I gotta mention Mariah Samsel. She's the sweetest girl. After the fight, she came over. She just said, "Hey, I just want to say hello." She complimented Jenna Lee on her outfit. She's just such a nice girl. I would like to see that rematch too when it comes to our women's MMA. Now, another person I want to mention, and I know I'm going on and on, but I made a couple notes and I had to mention this. One of my favorite fighters from last week's card was somebody that we had on the pod last week, and I think that we should continue to do that, continue to give people that we don't know and the NFC community doesn't know an opportunity to just get to know. Our guy, Drew Finchin, and he ended up losing a split decision. But just the entire build-up, the week leading up, him being on the show, we interacted a ton on Instagram leading out there. He did have a ton of fans. I remember during his fight, half of his whole people, they were behind me talking. He had his girlfriend out there. His walkout was incredible. I enjoyed his walkout. And just him, just in general, he definitely stood out to me. I had to shout him out, my man Drew Finchin.
Yeah, so I guess to talk about Drew for a minute, you don't know about because we didn't even talk about it. But so at his weigh-in, he was the first one at weigh-ins. Weigh-in started at 1. I think he showed up at noon, and we chatted there. We met each other for the first time. I asked him what he was going to do with his hair the next night, and he told me cornrows. So we talked about that for a minute. But so he weighs in at 1 o'clock. He mates weight. His opponent comes a little bit later. I think his opponent was, I don't quote me on the number, but a pound over, 2 pounds. I think it was about 2 pounds over. And his opponent from ATT Lima, there was a little bit of a language barrier there. It seemed like he didn't completely understand what we were saying. And he was 2 pounds over. So we asked Drew what he wanted to do. Are you okay with 2 pounds over, or do you want him to go lose the weight? Lots of times they're split down the middle. So we didn't know what he'd want. Drew called his coach and he said, "Hey, I want him to go lose the weight." So we tell the guy, you have 60 minutes to cut weight. That's the athletic commission rule. You can go cut weight, but you got to be back in 60 minutes for the second and final weigh-in. I don't think the guy understood us. He left the weigh-in. We thought he was jogging around the parking lot. 60 minutes later, we're looking for him. I think Jesse goes outside. I'm hitting him on Facebook, texting him, calling him. The guy didn't answer anything. He left and never showed up the weigh in again 60 minutes later. I don't think he understood us when we said you need to go lose 2 pounds and come back. So an hour later, Drew was still sitting there at weigh-in. Drew didn't get a face-off with the guy, didn't get a face-off photo at the weigh-ins because the other guy left and never came back. But then he had to call his coach and say, should I take this fight or not? I want to take the fight, but he had to get his coach's answer because the guy was 2 pounds over and just never showed up for the second weigh-in. So him and his coach decided to take the fight. And we saw what happened in the fight. I don't think the 2 pounds made a difference at all. I never think 2 pounds 36 hours before makes a difference. But it was just weird seeing a guy leave the weigh-in and not come back.
Yeah, is that why they had like the stock photo of him?
Yeah, that's exactly why.
I was like wondering why did they have the stock photo? Like what the hell is going on? I understand. Look, at the end of the day, Drew, that was his first time in the cage, but he took no damage. Yeah. He lost the fight. He was held down. You know what I'm saying? Let's call a spade a spade. He was held down. He didn't take any damage. He was very excited, and I really enjoyed having him. I had to just make mention of him here on the pod because I just enjoyed meeting somebody, just new blood in the NFC community. And shout out to you for giving him this opportunity to be on NFC Now. And I think that we should continue to encourage people, especially our top ticket sellers, to get on the pod so we can get to know them no matter if they're 0-0 or coming up, because I feel like he added a level of interest and intrigue to the I don't want to say lesser part of the card, but the earlier part of the card.
I agree.
My final thing that I want to talk about today is, first of all, I want to thank you. Thank you, man, for giving me the opportunity to announce these fights, man. I always have an amazing time going out there and being the lead announcer. I got to shout out my man Jose, because I don't think people understand how it's a difficult job. It's not an easy job. It's not an easy job at all. You know what I'm saying? Like, not everybody can do the job. There's a lot that goes into controlling a crowd and introducing fighters and saying their name the right way, man. Throughout the night, I know we were just coming back. Jenna Lee and I were just coming back from Icon FC in Savannah. Throughout the night, man, like, my voice cracked multiple times. Like, I was like, y'all get ready for round number 2. And like the 2 didn't hit the same way. You know what I'm saying? And, there's always different things that happen throughout the night, man. But I felt like at first, the first couple fights, I was still warming up. But then towards the end, things got a lot better, man. And so I always just have to thank you for that opportunity.
Yeah, and I did want to add in, it's weird because I know anyone I employ gets jealous or mad or disagrees with me when I make decisions. But like one decision was I wanted Lawson or Zach Cooper to do the NFC Now podcast from the venue from 3 to 5 if we did that. I didn't want us to do it because I knew I'd be too busy, and I knew you'd be too busy, tired from Icon. And it does take a lot to announce the fights. It's a 4 to 5 hour gig to announce the fights. And like you said, you might lose your voice. So it's funny. Last week when I told you that, I thought you were going to argue with me, and you didn't. But I also wanted Lawson interviewing the guys in the cage, Lawson or Zach. I was going to have them both take different shots interviewing the guys in the cage if they're both there. Zach couldn't make it because he woke up with his voice actually gone. That's why he canceled. But I wanted to make sure Lawson was there because he didn't do a very good job at the beginning of the fight. Like, I didn't think he was very good at interviewing fighters at the beginning. But I think towards the later part of the night, he did become better. He projected his voice better. He put the microphone closer to the guy's mouths when either you or I told him we can't hear what the other guys are saying. So that way, in case you do go down during the night, now Lawson has done 2 introductions in the cage. He introduced Herschel Walker a couple months ago there, and then he did some of the introductions last night. So if anything happens to you, if you get sick during the night, if you feel ill, if you get diarrhea, whatever might happen during the night, we always have a backup. And it's funny because Charlene actually argued with me on the NFC Jiu-Jitsu night because Kimberly Sargent was doing the announcing there. And I wanted to have Sam do the interviews between the matches there, Sam Joseph. And Charlene was like, we just told Kimberly she's the announcer and there's not someone doing the interviews. Now you want to have Sam do it. And I was like, this way, in case something happens to Kimberly, we've got another backup right there ready to do it that's done a couple announcing and at least feels comfortable on the microphone. So that's why I do those things, just so there's always a backup in case something happens.
It's necessary.
It's a tough
Shout
job.
out to Leo. Lawson did an amazing job too, and him and I talked about it. And even like I could speak for Lawson. I'm not pulling back the third wall too much, but Lawson's like, I'm nervous, and it's real. Like, this is a real thing. There's a lot of people in the building. There's a lot of people there to be nervous in front of. Like, it's not an easy job. Like, when I walk into the center of the cage, I'm looking at everybody from the top to the bottom, around, as we're doing this. And like, we're not always going to be perfect. And so it took me time to warm up and for me to get those nerves out and for me to feel comfortable doing it. And so shout out to Lawson. I thought he did an incredible job. Again, we have these conversations during the fights as we're in there, man. But I think it's always these are fruitful conversations, but these are also just great opportunities for us to continue to sharpen our knives.
And people don't understand it is one of the most difficult gigs of the night because like you and the DJ can't go to the bathroom all night. I talked to DJ Don. I'm like, what happens if you got to take a shit? He's like, I fucking hold it in until you tell us there's a 10-minute break. He's like, I'll shit in my pants if I have to because he's got to be there to do the music all night long, basically. But yes, it is. I'm good friends with Southside Steve from Rock 100. When I started 20 years ago, he was my announcer, and it was the first time that he had ever announced a fight night. He had never been to a fight night before, and I used him for about the first 10 or 12 years till we switched over to Jose, give or take. But he was telling me how difficult it is to announce a fight night compared to his other gigs. He'd do wet t-shirt contests. He'd do bikini contests. He'd do weddings, divorces. He was always at bars doing promotions. And at a bar, you're at a 3-hour promotion at a bar, you get on the microphone 4 or 5 times. That's it. A couple minutes here and there. And he said, dude, to do a fight for you, that's 15 fights in a night. It's over 4 hours. It's sitting down. It's getting up into the cage. It's walking down, getting up, walking down, getting up, walking down. It's staying sober all night long. The bright lights affect you. you might get a headache during the night. As I'm sitting here doing the podcast, I'm looking at this bright light, and it's giving me a headache right now. So it's an extremely difficult job. It's a very talented job that not a lot of people can do.
I enjoy doing it though. I enjoy like introducing these fighters. I enjoy riling them up. I enjoy looking at them right before they're about to go to war, man. And like I take pride in it. And like, I know we had my man Tony Hope on a little earlier. I remember like, saying Tony Hope fighting out of Atlanta, Georgia, representing Bangkok boxing, and he was just stoic, just like, but like I still enjoy it, and just being able to be a part of people's fight nights, man. I saved all those cards, and for everybody listening, I have the fight cards and I have the decisions. I wrote them all out. Thanks to you, Dave. Like we have that option for us to do that. But I gave the fight card to Tony Hope. I gave the fight card to I think it was Devin Sr. I gave him his fight card. I wasn't able to meet up with everybody afterwards, but I have your fight card. So if you're interested in getting these fight cards, like where I write down all this information, like I can give it to you, because it is really a piece of memorabilia. You know what I'm saying? This is a moment in time that was captured. And so I wanted to just hit on that and end the show by just saying, thank you for the opportunity. And shout out to my man Jose for laying the foundation. And then shout out to Southside C for being there beforehand.
And it's funny because I'm also friendly with Mark Owens. Mark Owens, I think, is on the Burt Show. I don't even know. I don't listen to radio, but he just retired after 18 years with the Atlanta Braves. So if you ever went to Atlanta Braves games in the last 18 years, the big screen between innings, I don't know if you go to Braves games or not, but he's the guy on the big screen introducing people during contests. And he did the Home Depot tool thing. He'd introduce them or whatever. So I actually was at a beer fest last week in Smyrna. We both live in Smyrna, and he was my announcer years ago. And he was telling me, hey, now that I'm retired with the Braves, I've got more time if you want me to announce a fight. So I told him, well, I've got an announcer, so you're not going to announce a fight, but maybe you come to a fight and we'll let you do one fight that night or something like that, or two fights that night, just as a cool thing, because now he is on the morning show, I think, with the Burt Show. He can chat it up there. It'd be cool for him to meet you to meet him, and you never know where you introduce people, what it might lead to. But that might be something in the future, have Mark Owens out at a fight. And, like I said, 18 years with the Braves, maybe it convinces a couple Braves to come to one of the fights now that it's off season for the Braves. Cool stuff like that.
It's all about the relationships, man. I'm always open to meet somebody, man. Before we part ways today, man, your thoughts about the show? How'd you feel?
It was a good show. I mean, it was thrown together as a 5-9. It was McGregor versus Diaz, Doug Usher versus Jared Gooden. It was everything right on that. It was nerve-wracking for me that in case either one got injured or this or that happened, what was I going to do with the show? And I've never canceled a show outside of COVID, so I think I would have made it happen somehow. It wasn't our best show. I don't even think I made any money that's worth even talking about. We had about 400 people in the building compared to an average of 700 people. But it was a cool Stay Busy show. We've got November 4th coming in a couple weeks, the Jesse Wable Amateur Series. I think we're over 300 ticket sales for that already, being whatever we are, 3 weeks out. So that's going to be a huge night. In 2 weeks, we're partnering with Conflict in Areas, which we haven't talked about a lot, for Chattanooga Fight Night. So myself and I think Charlene, Jesse Wable, Nick Sprayberry, Ashley Sprayberry, Eric Bullock and his wife Carla, I think we're all going to make the trip up to Chattanooga for that show. So just another cool way to work with two other promoters. And this time we get to let Areas FC run the show in Tennessee, see how they do it, maybe pick up a couple of tips from them to bring back. And then December we take off. No shows in December. Just a way for us to regroup, relax, work on things coming down the pipeline next year, and just take a little bit of a break.
You deserve a break, man, because you've been working a whole lot, David Oblas, especially, man, leading up to NFC 150. We do have NFC 151, Jesse Wable's Amateur Series, taking place November 4th at Tannery Row. That's going to be an amazing card. But for now, this has been a wrap for NFC Now. Shout out to Tony Hope for coming on. Shout out to Doug Usher for coming on as well. We'll have on Malcolm Wellmaker maybe sometime soon. I know our show started a little bit late, so that kind of threw off everything, man. But it is all good. We still had an amazing show here. Shout out to everybody who tuned in, dropped a comment. We'll continue to just build our platform here on NFC Now moving forward. So Definitely see you next Monday at 7 p.m. here and only here on NFC Now. Fight Podcast, everything regarding the events, the fighters, and the people surrounded with making the NFC happen. David, you got any final thoughts, bro?
I got to go get my dog from outside that I logged out here because he was crying.
As my new tagline was, let's get it. See you next time, man. Peace.